And in business, you don't always get to follow your right path because you have to consider the right paths of multiple people at play. As entrepreneurs, we get to lead a little bit heavier because it's our business, but you don't have to start soft. If you have to go hard to get to your body, do it. That's okay. You can be angry. You can go punch something. You can be overwhelmed, and you don't have to be like, I'm just going to sit here in my overwhelm. I'm just going to like breathe through it and be with it. Like that doesn't work for everybody. Welcome to Heart and Head Work, the podcast for women who want to lead with strategy and soul.
I'm Tessa, the people connector who embraces vulnerability and dreams big.
And I'm Rocky, the strategist who thrives on logic and turns vision into action.
We combined our superpowers and founded Maven, a community that empowers women.
Including Maven District, the largest collective of women-owned small businesses in the world.
This podcast is for women like you, building something real and wanting more than just business advice.
You'll hear honest conversations, practical tools, and personal stories about what it actually takes to build purpose-driven businesses.
If you're building with your whole self, heart and head, this is a space for you.
Join us on the journey.
Hey lovelies, I'm Tessa Arneson, and today I get to introduce one of my most favorite humans in the world, Rocky Donati. Rocky is an entrepreneur, a strategist, and a creative problem solver who built multi-million-dollar brands in San Francisco before Burnout led her to Utah. Thank God, where she co-founded Maven, challenging women to step into their power, claim financial freedom, and lead with unwavering authenticity. After decades in male-dominated industries, Rocky knows the pressure to sacrifice femininity for success. On Heart and Head Work, she proves that logic and intuition aren't mutually exclusive, blending big-picture thinking with a strong sense of self. When she's not shaping the future, Rocky fully embraces her inner hermit, escaping to the wilderness with her partner in crime and 2 Aussie pups, allowing the great outdoors to recharge her. Always seeking clarity and questioning the status quo, she's carving her own path and inviting others to do the same.
Here we are. Yet again.
Hi, partner.
Hi, friend.
So today is all about Rocky. We want you to get to know Rocky. So where we like to start, we want to give some, where are you at right now? Give me a rose, give me a thorn. Rocky, what have you been grappling with and
Oh, yeah.
smelling?
And smelling.
Right? It's a rose.
What's been smelling good for me? So I was recently told that it's not my job to rush. That is something that I would be experiencing on the regular. And so I'm working to have a slow morning. And I'm sure like a lot of people, you know, you wake up and the first thing you do is you look at your phone, or the first thing you do is think about like, oh shit, what do I have to get done today? And so I've been trying to not do that, not hop into this unnecessary rush, because if I don't read my email, there is no rush. I create it by default. So my husband has recently rebuilt an espresso machine, which is pretty impressive. And so he will bring me an espresso and I get to stay in bed, and I'm like all curled in bed. It's warm, it's cozy. I'm under my blankets. I've got my dogs on top of me, and he will get out into the cold for me, create this little magical liquid, bring it to me, and I get to just like sip it slowly. And I got to do that today before we started this.
And if you're not reading email, what are you doing? Nothing?
Nothing. Yeah. Yeah, I should have clarified.
Phones.
No phone, no noise, no light, aside from the natural light that's coming in through our window. And I'm usually up right before dark, so I got to see, you know, the light rise and come through the room. It was really magic. So
that's beautiful. Somebody once told me how you start your morning is how you live your day. So I love that. You know how much I love my morning. So yes. I'm so excited to hear about this new way that you're bringing in your morning.
Yep. No rush.
No hitting the ground running.
Nope. Slow.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Thanks. I do too. So that was great.
Tell me about your thorn.
Ooh. Okay. So thorn was the last episode. We were talking about all the heart stuff where you get so lit up and excited, and it's so clear that you feel comfortable in that space. And I started getting tunnel vision. And I was physically starting to like move away from the mic, and I need to stay in the mic. I realized, thinking about our interaction in the podcast, I couldn't engage with you. I couldn't ask a question. I couldn't see anything clearly. I was really sweaty. And it's because I'm not uncomfortable with what you're saying. I'm uncomfortable with how it makes me feel.
Wow.
So not smelling good on that rose.
No, but what a thing to notice, right? Go back into that moment. Give us just a little bit more.
I am actually a super feeler, but I don't have a lot of experience in my feelings. So when I'm interacting with you and you're telling me about all of these feelings, they're in there somewhere, but my brain is a control freak and doesn't want to acknowledge them, so it shoves it down. And then it can recognize like the power of that feeling coming upward. It's got to take control. So it's going to start literally trying to distance me. So like it's taking my vision and making you tiny so that you're far away from me. We're not close. It's going to make me get the chills and get sweaty so that I start, like feeling cold and like I need to pull inward and get back into my, my cozy blanket like from this morning. Or I'm literally physically pulling away from the microphone so then I don't have to have a conversation with you. It's that. So I think it is ultimately my brain's ability to take away my emotions, keep them shoved down by not relating or acknowledging yours. I just distance. It's protection.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
safety. Yeah.
So,
wow. Well, I have so many follow-up questions, but I'm going to get into them in a little bit because I think that this is a huge piece of why you and I have turned out the way we've turned out.
I'm going to drink some water now because I'm really nervous.
A little nervous. Okay. Well, last week we got to talk about vulnerability and that as my superpower. It's something that I feel very comfortable in going to, but not everybody does.
No.
Yeah. But on the flip side, we have Rocky, and one of the things that makes her one of the most genius people I've ever got to work with is her ability to lead with her head, if you will. And sometimes I don't even know how to tap into that and get into that. So I wanted to interview her for you all because she's one of the highest performers I've ever met from a strategic and productive human and her ability to get shit done. So I want to just dig in. Can we dig in a little bit more to
this is way more
your
comfortable.
brain?
Yeah, this is way more comfortable.
Okay,
Let's
but
do it. I'm ready.
Here's the thing,
Nope.
listeners.
Negative.
She thinks that it's going to be way more comfortable. I'm here to tell you it's going to feel that way in the beginning, and then we're going to like lightly trick her into talking about
Is this gentle parenting?
really hard things.
Could a producer, could you get me some deodorant? Is deodorant on
Yes.
standby? It's time to get real sweaty.
Okay, let's start out with an easy one.
Give it to me.
What does leading with your head mean to you, and why do you think you lean towards more of that than how I work, leading with my heart?
This one's only easy because the emotional side of it is in retrospect now. So, but if we were to imagine little Rocky, I am this crazy questioner kid. I am curious about everything. I want to know about people. I want to know about animals. I want to know about machinery. I want to know how everything works. And
Give us an age you're picturing.
Oh, good question.
Are we 7?
Yeah, I was actually just going to say 7.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently we both have 7 as like a key
Yeah.
age. Because you mentioned that the last episode. I wanted to unlock the secrets of the world. That was like my mission in life, if you will. And I was a little investigator, little Sherlock Holmes going around trying to find everything. And, when you're little, adults are the ones who tell you what's good and what's bad by their reactions, by their feedback and all of that. And when I was little and I'm asking all of these questions, the annoying kid that's like, why? Why, Mom? Why? What about that? Why? When do you do this? Why? sometimes I got really positive response. Most of that was when it was a science-based question. Something like, why is fire hot? Can fire be cold? That was like a great question. The times it was not great questioning was when it was something about like religion or emotions or like a personal choice. Because if you can imagine a 7-year-old asking an adult, why did you get divorced? It's a pretty bold question. And if you're an adult and you're not comfortable yet with that answer, your response can often be like, that's inappropriate. We don't ask those types of questions.
Which is so confusing to a 7-year-old.
Correct.
Because all they're trying to do with these questions is define their little worlds, right?
Yep.
They have this big world and they're trying to make it a little smaller and make sense to them.
Yep. And that's all I was trying to do. And so I think what happened from this is, that shape of good questions, bad questions. All of the good questions were like, oh, okay, I'm going to lean into this direction. And the other thing that really shaped that was I always got, she's so smart, but she's so stubborn. She is so smart, but she is a pain in the ass. She is so smart, but she's insatiable. She won't stop asking questions. So this idea of smart was like what you latch onto. If I asked a science question, the sentence, the compliment would stop. It would be, she's smart. The but only occurred when it was inappropriate questions. Like, how can you fit all of those animals on Noah's Ark? I'm like really curious how you did that. That was a threat to a belief not acknowledged as a question of tell me more. That's really what I was asking. So I think this whole thing led into my professional life, which meant that as I leaned into what are appropriate questions, science-based questions, knowledge-based, I went and I was just insatiable for that, and I went after it hardcore. It created a problem solver, problem identifier trait that was really appealing to a business.
Yeah.
I did not thrive in bureaucracy. I wouldn't thrive in like politics, but I would thrive in a business where here's a problem and guess what? I can go solve it. And I'm going to solve it really well. I'm going to solve it really fast. And so that became success. And that for me became, well, I just lead with my head. Simultaneously, that meant I was totally unemotional because I was just a robot. Everything was shoved down. I didn't know how to question anything about myself, how I felt, what I needed, what I wanted. That was just pushed aside.
It's interesting. It's so interesting because I'm thinking about it from a parent lens since I'm a parent of 2 little girls, as you know, and I'm thinking about the question, both of those types of questions. They both get asked. One is easier to answer than the other.
Absolutely.
And so when you get the questions of Noah's Ark,
yeah, or why did you get a divorce, or why are you sad?
It's exhausting, and you were already an exhausted parent because you were already stretched too thin because you have already decided to have children and be a little overcommitted, and it's all lovely and fun. But I think about me as a parent, and mind you, I'm very heart open, so I spend a ton of time on the opposite side of those questions too. But I think about your parents and the time that we grew up in, and EQ being in such a different place than it is now, and how that's just like, because I remember asking questions and my mom being like, I don't understand what you're asking, so I'm just like next, and just like, everyone be quiet. I'm just trying to listen to my cool jazz, my smooth jazz, and have some peace, So I now being a parent, I have such a different take on it than as a angry adult trying to rectify my parent, my upbringing, if you will.
Because the realization now as an adult is, oh yeah, that makes total sense. A 7-year-old who's asking me something I haven't worked through, of course I'm going to be uncomfortable and nervous and want to shut it down. That makes total sense.
Yeah.
The drawback is all the quote unquote damage it did
Yes.
to me as a kid. And I didn't even realize it until I was in my 30s when I got burnt out. I moved from San Francisco to Utah, and I was seeking refuge from my own head. That's a really scary space to be in, that I put myself here.
Or were you seeking refuge from your own heart?
I think I was seeking refuge for my heart from my head.
Oh,
I know. Write that shit down,
genius.
guys. Write that
Genius.
shit down.
Oh,
If you want a little nibble to take away from this podcast, there you go.
okay. So tell us how, like you touched on it, but can we go back into then how did that turn you into some of your huge traits on the professional side that you identify as a problem solver?
Well, as a natural investigator, it was easy for me to find out not just what the problem was, but it was easy for me to find out what the problem at the root was. So businesses suffer a lot from superficial level problems, and we're always trying to run around and solve those problems. But we're often not able to look at what's the real problem. What could be like the cornerstone problem that has a ripple effect on everything else?
It's putting out the fires versus what's causing the fires.
Correct. Exactly.
Thank you for solving that at Maven.
Oh, you are so welcome. I love the privilege of being able to solve it and use my superpower. So I think that's, in a lot of different jobs, as an example, it was not welcomed. I've been fired from, telling an employee this the other day, 5 jobs over the course of my professional life, which is truly incredible. Because that's a lot. And that was because those are the types of businesses that didn't want to be questioned. A big box company, they've already got the processes set. They don't want an investigator. So I had to find entrepreneurship where investigation was part of the business. It's inevitable. You have to do it. So yeah, I think that in summary is really how it got developed. And actually Maven is the first place that I brought that skill set. And then you had the amazing capability of telling me, well, I really love this skill set, but like, you want to talk about your heart feelings? And honestly, remember I said I was a little kid and I was curious about everything. That included people and emotions. And I was a big feeler too as a kid. So it reawakened this very scary thing of, well, she wants to know my heart. And like my heart hasn't had no attention for so long. But if I bring it up, she's going to be, oh, Rocky is smart, but now she's blank. So if I were to reveal those heart side, like be investigative again about my heart or your heart, I would get the but statement. And that was going to be terrible and scary because then our partnership might dissolve. You might not like me anymore.
Yeah.
So.
And as you know to be true now,
I was so wrong. I should have just jumped in. You would have been like, I love you.
Yes. I need both sides. Obviously, I want all the sides, right? I want to see all the sides. And I think upon reflection, it could have, not that we have regrets really, but it could cement things faster, right? Yeah. If I do remember being like, how are you? And you blinking once or twice before you spoke. So if she does that to you, people, that means she's collecting.
It's a slow blink.
Yes, she's collecting her thoughts about what she really wants to share, what's safe to share potentially.
Yes,
this is really fast.
Spot on.
And then she might respond, "Fine, I'm great." Mm-hmm. Yeah, see my smile? It's great.
This is why I had to get a feelings wheel. Mm-hmm. So I could be like, I'm great. Hold, please.
Yeah. So background on that. We got Rocky a feelings wheel. Well, actually, she made herself a feelings wheel and laminated it and brought it to a meeting as a joke, but we actually pull it out all the time because in this journey of her uncovering her heart again and letting it be a big piece of herself, which always was, she had to figure out how to name feelings, which is something that I work on with my tiny humans all the time, my 4-year-olds in particular. Are you angry? Are you frustrated? Like what do you need? And it's just one of our favorite things of like a very tangible way she was dipping her toe into this opposite side.
You know what I think is cool is when you say that, what's really a bummer about thinking I was doing such a good job at all of this scope and strategy was that I thought I was solving problems and identifying problems and getting to the root cause. But in reality, I wasn't, because most problems from business are actually people problems. Yeah. So if I'm over here solving all these other problems, but ignoring the people piece, the heart piece, I'm actually not even digging to the core. And a good example of that would be like, if someone says, I go to work at the end of the day and I haven't gotten anything done. I'm over here going, oh, you got a problem. I am here. I'm going to fix this problem. Okay, let me ask you some questions. Why are you not getting anything done? Let's just say the other person is like, well, I was just busy doing other things. I'm like, okay, why are you busy doing other things? Also thinking to myself, I am so smart right now. I am so good at this. And this person might respond like, well, there's just so many emails, I can't make it stop. And I'm like, why do you feel the need to respond to everything immediately? This person says, well, because I feel like it's my responsibility to handle everything that comes my way. And I'm over here going like, okay, I have a solution for you. Active inbox. Yep, I'm gonna give you a tool. It's gonna help you sparse out the information about your emails. And for anybody who's listening and doesn't know what active inbox is, because probably nobody does, because it's this really weird tool. It's basically something that lets you like reassign an email to later. So it's like a checklist for your emails. So you can get through your email box. You don't have this like overwhelming amount of email. I thought that was a solution. Come to find out, that's actually just a Band-Aid. That's actually not the core problem, because what I wasn't really asking after that next question of like, well, I feel like it's my responsibility to handle everything. I never went and asked the person, why do you feel like it's your responsibility? Mm-hmm. Because that's the cusp of emotions. I don't want to go down there.
Yeah.
But had I asked that question, someone would probably say like, well, I feel guilty. I don't want to let people down. Well, I don't know how to solve that with a software issue. I don't know how to make that more efficient. I don't know how to...
You don't know how to pull out a productivity tool.
All right, producer, a deodorant. No. Like that becomes now this really terrible tunnel for me. But that is actually the core problem. Guilt is the core problem. People's emotions are often the core problem, even in business. That's what drives us to create these bigger problems, productivity. It's not a result of someone not having the right tools all the time. It can be, but often that's not the root. The root is an emotion that put them there. So since having found you and Maven and being able to kind of rectify that balance again, where I'm investigating both things, both the head and the heart, I think we're watching it in our team, the productivity, the efficiency and everything getting better, because I'm better at now acknowledging the emotion that's often behind the behavior or the quote unquote problem. Mm-hmm. And I'm not trying to solve their feeling. I'm trying to hear their feeling, acknowledge their feeling, and then also provide them with a helpful piece or a tool, I should say, not even a piece of, but something for their toolbox to say, okay, well, when you feel this way, here are some ways in which we can help you move through that feeling and get back into the work side. Mm-hmm. But the feeling's not going to go away. We can't squash it. We can't press it down.
Yeah.
So
it's almost like we are both actually managing feelings just with different tools. And sometimes a lot of the tools overlap. I mean, mm-hmm. We'll go through some of your tools that I'm like, yes, right? But I think we just are coming at people mm-hmm. from two slightly different sides.
Oh,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you are literally leading with heart. Like, even if someone, I would actually say in counter, like, even if someone had a problem that was, even if you found the core emotion, I think you are probably often going to like stay in that emotion for a lot longer than I am. I'm still going to ultimately like try to solve to really get them out of the emotion as quickly as possible. You know, none of this is right or wrong. It's just that there's still a clear discomfort for me in the emotion.
Yeah.
So I still default to, let me solve the problem. That will help you feel this emotion less. Whereas you're just like in the emotion, like all the emotions. Yeah. Let's be in it. And
so it doesn't come up again.
Yeah. And then, so a lot of our leadership style, and probably for a lot of other people, is figuring out the balance. How long is sitting in it good, and how long is sitting in it too long?
Yep. That leads me to my next question, since you know I do this. How do you stop overanalyzing? Because you know it's my thing. I don't know. I don't do it for a lot of things, but if I get stuck, I will ruminate and I'll circle the wagons. I'll ask a bunch of experts. I'll listen to a bunch of podcasts. I'll do a bunch of research, and then none of those help. And then I finally get quiet in the woods and I make myself okay. But what do you do?
I mean, very similar. This is, someone called this mental masturbation recently, and I loved it because I don't know if anybody, for some reason, I think the word overwhelm was a feeling. So my brain is like, fuck that. Yeah, we don't say overwhelm. We don't acknowledge overwhelm. But mental masturbation is funny and it's witty and it's very, comical. So my head is like, let's take a moment to explore this. This is funny. What does mental masturbation mean? And it comes up how you described for me too. When I'm not in my flow and I just stop doing meaningful work and I'm spinning, I am in mental masturbation. I mean, it happens to everybody. We all overthink something or another. And
I can't stop thinking of a monkey trying to work really hard. Really fast when you say mental masturbation.
I love that you're doing this like a keyboard with your hands and not the other thing that monkeys like to do at the zoo in front of children.
When you first started using that, I was like, oh yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's that ruminating over and over and over and over.
Yeah, the roller coaster of your brain, which is endless and dark. And I think everybody experiences this because we're all experiencing incoming, right?
All the time.
All the time. And especially in business where you've got last minute meetings, you've got too many emails, you've got a decision that seems critical or everything is going to fall apart, or, and particularly for entrepreneurs, there's endless problems. So I think we sometimes tend to be in the worst of it. Everything is a fire, everything is an emergency. I don't have the luxury of, and I'm hoping I'm not alone actually, I don't have the luxury of just sitting and breathing and meditating, which is often what someone tells you to do. Because breath is such an important part of like stopping your brain for a moment and getting into your body. And so meditation to me is like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I'm not gonna meditate. But the same thing still applies. How do I get out of my brain and get into my body? How can I start breathing again? I have to do it forcefully. So I have to go beat the shit out of something. No people, just, like a punching bag, and get my heart rate up and get my breathing, lift heavy weights, go uphill, like hike uphill at 8,000 feet, whatever I can do that is she's smart but aggressive approach to getting my heart rate up, getting my breathing to be the only thing my head can focus on. And once I'm in that space, kind of similar to what you said, out in nature, it doesn't matter if I'm out in nature or inside, as long as I'm out of my head, into my body, I have this amazing happening. I'm not going to lie, sex is another way to get there. That is my breakthrough. It is the physical movement that gives me breath. And that's what I would always recommend to anybody. But I think the bummer is that often the recommendation is so soft that if you're like me, I'm an intense person. I don't do soft very easily. Like I can't just sit and meditate and like start breathing. Imagine yourself in the woods. Oh, let the babbling brook touch you. I'm like, no. My meditation is, you know what? Fuck that. Fuck this. Whatever. You're a badass. You are so cool right now. Zero shit matters. Zero fucks given. But that also doesn't do anything. That doesn't get me back into my breath either.
That doesn't get you out of overanalyzing necessarily.
Nope. So yeah, it's got to be physical, harsh, intense movement. And then of course the balance of don't overexert yourself. But once I'm back, then I'm like, usually my brain knows the answer. I'm ready. I got it. The clarity is there.
Rid of the fluff or like,
yes.
All of the stuff going on at once. And it just gives your brain allowed to focus on one thing.
Yeah. All of these are fires. Here's what's causing the fire. Now I'm looking at the real problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I dig it.
I love that. Although you have mentioned you have done some meditation lately that does help you. So, you bring it in sometimes.
I bring it in at the top of the hill.
Yes. I love this.
It's
actually a great entry point in my opinion.
Yeah. My body is so ready for it now. And my brain is told to shut the fuck up. That's when I'm like, yeah, okay, let's try this meditation thing. And then I'm all in, I'm zen, I'm cool, I'm back in my flow. But I think that flip flop for some people is pretty key. You don't have to start soft. If you have to go hard to get to your body, do it. That's okay. You can be angry. You can go punch something. You can be overwhelmed, and you don't have to be like, oh, I'm just going to sit here in my overwhelm. I'm just going to like breathe through it and be with it. Like that doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
So
I think that's a key that we'll be talking about time after time after time on this podcast is there are things that we have found that work for us and that the guests that we bring on that work for them. But your job as a human is to do your own damn experiments on yourself and figure out what works, because that is one that I think works for a lot of people. It doesn't obviously work for everyone, but that is a great way to go, is to get your heart pumping and then sit your butt down or meditate while you walk and go slow, right? So there's lots of different ways to skin a cat, if you will.
Yeah.
And your job as a human is to figure out which ones work for you and to experiment and try and see what works.
Yeah. We're all the same. We're all different.
Yeah, exactly.
So easy. This is easy. We are really good at this.
That out.
Can't wait to keep having really simple conversations.
Yeah. Okay. So something that I also really want to ask you, because we have a couple listener questions, is how do you balance logic and intuition when making big ideas? Or not big ideas, excuse me. Big decisions.
Oh.
That's a little different than idea.
Fair point. Fair point.
I feel like that's...
We're talking about action. Like a decision being like the action point. Well, I think if you want to balance anything, you have to first have the capacity for both things. So you have to have both logic and you have to have intuition. For me, I didn't just like wake up one day, as much as I'd like to think I did. I didn't wake up one day as a little kid and go like, I'm super smart. I have great intuition. I also didn't wake up like any kid and say, oh, I'm very logical. Like I have logic. These are things that we develop progressively. You learn to be intuitive. You learn to be logical. And of course, each of us has a propensity for one side or another, maybe more or less. But I think this is where experience is the only real answer, that you have to learn through the world's best teacher, which is failure. Where, how do you get good intuition? Well, you have to face fears. That's what builds the ability to be intuitive. And how do you have great logic? Well, you have to be curious, and you also have to fail along the way about your knowledge, what becomes good or not as good to keep making that evolution. And so I think that's something like you can't just all of a sudden, I know your question isn't this, but you can't just all of a sudden have logic and intuition and know how to balance the two things.
Yeah.
You have to be curious and you have to be relatively fearless. And then you've got to make it actionable, to make it the decision. You got to make a move. You have to just make a move. it doesn't matter what the move is, you can't stay still. And the key, I think, is like you make a move and you don't just do it and then forget. You make a move and you pay attention to what happens when you make that move. That's how we create the knowledge of this is an efficient path. This is a really smart path. This is a path that gets me here. At the same time, you're only doing that because you're finding out all the wrong paths. So, but either way, the worst thing in my opinion to do is to never make a move.
Yeah.
And I know that's super scary, but kind of to what you said yesterday, to me when we were talking, and I think we mentioned on the podcast too, that when you make a move, it doesn't have to be big. Nothing has to be big. It just has to be comfortable enough to not feel like a scary failure.
Yeah.
And that is the other piece of it. Make a small move. Doesn't have to be a big move. Even if the end result is a big decision, make a small move now. And then just analyze it. Think, how did it go? How did it feel even?
Yeah.
And then make another small move and make another. And you can stand in that moment for a while before you can move again. But it's always better to make some kind of move, even if it's scary.
I actually think when younger women ask career advice, that's one of the ones I love to talk about. Is there are times in my earlier career that I stayed too long at things and I didn't move quick enough. Mm-hmm. I think now we are so much more nimble because we have that intuition, have practiced that logic, really understand how to work with our feelings so they don't control us in the same way.
Yeah.
But as a younger adult early in my career, I stayed too long at two different jobs and just was so worried about making the right move that I made no move.
Yeah. Slow-mo is better than no-mo.
That's a quote that used to be in one of our buildings when we love that one.
Yeah, because it's scary and it's weird and it's uncomfortable. And, how do you know if the decision is a good balance between logic and intuition?
Yeah.
You only know through experience and through the continued failure of that to go, well, I don't like my job. Am I being irrational? Like, are the feelings I'm having a little bit, preemptive? Am I not sitting in that long enough? Mm-hmm. Or is it really actually not a good place for me to be? To know those two things, it doesn't mean you just suddenly leave. It means you acknowledge both of those things and you try to find that balance. But you also, if you've never left a job before,
it can be scary.
It can be scary, but you'll never know if leaving the job was good for you or not good for you unless you do it. And so maybe taking some smaller steps with interviewing and not leaving your job and just seeing what
job searching.
Yeah, what the other potential options are out there for you. That's not too illogical. You're not just like all of a sudden upheaving your life and calling it quits. Mm-hmm. It's also intuitive because you'll know like, oh, I feel so much better interviewing with these wonderful women at Maven. They're like the best company to work for. That might be your that might be the outcome that you have. And you go, there's something different out there. Now your next step is, what do I want to do with that?
Yeah.
And little by little by little, you just get further away from the potential problem.
I mean, this is relationship advice 101. You can apply all of this to.
I'll be here all week being able to talk to you about love in all its forms. Love for business, love for your, parents. Yeah, I'm basically an expert.
Stayed in that relationship too long. Well, this goes to my next question because, this is one I struggle with a ton because, big dreams, the backside of that.
Great dreams.
That I have a very hard time with scope and understanding scope. Can you talk about that a little bit? And I know that a lot of people wonder about how to control it. So I think one of the things you're really good at is getting our team and me to focus. So teach me.
You want me to teach you everything. You want, like I said, I'm an expert. You want all the knowledge.
I want your top 3 tips.
Okay. This is kind of like asking, like, why? big questions about you and your feelings, it took you a long time to figure out why feelings exist, why you have them. We got to go trace all the way back to our origin of being little.
Mm-hmm.
I think strategy is such a fun word for people to be like, oh, I'm doing strategy. We're like right now being really strategic. We're in the mode of, and so because it's become flippant, it's no longer acknowledged as such a hard thing to do. It is an all-encompassing giant picture. I mean, it is complex creature. So similarly to like how you can't see an entire picture of yourself without doing all the therapy and work to get down and go back to your origin story, you can't just all of a sudden be like, I got strategy. Like I can see strategy of this business. Most of it comes from the experience of firstly seeing problems, real problems. So that's my tip number one is like, if you are not already good at identifying what is causing the fire and you are just a fire chaser, that's the first thing we've got to work on is like, how do you become a better identifier of what is causing the fire? That's stay tuned because that can be an entire podcast, but that's my first thing. So if I believe that that's the way you can get closer to finding good scope and strategy, the second advice I would have is having what I call real talk.
Oh, I love this one, please.
Real talk. Like, how can you become better at finding the core problem or the cause of the fire? Well, you got to ask questions. You got to be an investigator. But you can't just be a surface level investigator. You can't just ask the flip it questions. You've got to ask deep questions. So, I mean, you got to go all the way in. Similar to the examples of the email. I'm overwhelmed. I can't get anything done. Blah, 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 blah. We just asked those questions and we got down to like, you feel guilty. Like there's your actual problem. When you can identify a series of core problems, real problems, and then you put them all together and you lay it out in the big picture, now you're putting a puzzle together. That's what strategy ultimately is knowing if this is the current snapshot and I want it to look like something different, you can't answer the question of how to go there unless you know what it looks like to begin with. Mm-hmm. So being a great problem solver, identifying the core root of things by using that real talk, not get surface level questions, but going all the way deep, you'll get a snapshot. Then you have to figure out, well, what's my new dream? And then you've got to figure out how to change your picture into the new dream. Mm-hmm. So it's just this, like I said, it's a super complicated creature that we are often in business being forced to think is super simplistic, and it's not. It is literally, a business is an entity just like we are entities. And because a business is made up of multiple entities, i.e. people, we're now just not dealing with one person's origin story. Mm-hmm. We're dealing with a collective of origin stories. So we're going to have this amplification of problems, amplifications of complexities. That snapshot takes expertise. You can't get there without experiencing it. But in terms of first steps, start the real talk. And start getting down to the real.
Start small. You often reference, how do we eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Talk about that.
I love a setup. I mean, that's basically it. That you got this giant puzzle in front of you and you got to find all the pieces first. And, whether you're eating it or whether you're just, compiling it, the idea is the same. It's tiny. And once you have that big picture, you may also not know what to do with it, because that's where the expertise comes in. Just like any move. Do I move left? Do I move right? Do I go forward? Where am I on the trail? Mm-hmm. What if I fail? So it's just this accumulation of so much stuff. So I feel like I can't actually answer that, but I want the takeaway to be real talk. Don't stop asking questions at surface level. Keep going. When you start feeling sweaty and uncomfortable and you start wanting to avoid the answer and you don't like it, keep investigating, even in business.
What does it feel like for you when you think you've gotten to the right level of questions, or like you're like, there it is? What is it? Just for people that are out of practice with this or are still developing the skill, what does it feel like? Or how do you know when you're like, okay, now I've got my arms around this?
Yeah. I only discovered this recently. Up until this new recent point, I just knew. And I think that was more arrogance than actual knowledge. That's just, the power of youth. I know that this is the right answer. I think there was something else also happening.
Would you say gut? When you say, I just knew?
So for me, my acknowledgement couldn't be its intuition.
Oh,
it had to be knowledge. It had to be actual. I knew this. I am all knowing. But the reality is during that time, yes, something else was occurring. And what I recently found was I get goosebumps physically when I get lit up by this is it. This is the freaking answer. I'm not giving you goosebumps right
Goosies.
now. And I'm not touching you.
I know.
It's pretty powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those goosebumps, that was my body telling me early on, my gut instinct telling me early on, yeah, this is it. This is it, baby. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. So I think it's again, you take the leap, you make a move, you figure out, how do you feel about it? If you feel really good about it, and that's going to come up somehow physically, it would be really nice for me to go back in time and be like, hey, Rocky, sometimes you thought things were right, but you never got that tingly feeling. If you'd only listened to the tingly feeling, you could have gotten to where you wanted to be a lot faster. Of course, again, no regrets. We don't go backwards in time, but that paying attention to it for me is paying attention to my body and the light up that I get, the goosebumps, the joy of like, this is it. I feel in my gut, this is the right path. And it's the right path for me. And in business, you don't always get to follow your right path because you have to consider the right paths of multiple people at play. As entrepreneurs, we get to lead a little bit heavier because it's our business. But goes back to body.
Oh,
look at this. It goes back to the heart. Even though we're talking head work, it's back to the heart work. You love it.
I know.
Goes back to you.
No, it goes back to being human, right?
Yes.
And it goes back to being us. Thank you so much, partner. I loved this.
I actually just had this weird feeling if she's going to say, I love you, partner, and it was going to make me uncomfortable.
Yeah,
and I don't
but
know why
you
I just went back to it.
You stayed in it. You stayed in the conversation. And
I did a good job. I am a good dog.
I'm so proud of you. And listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. We're stoked to have you here. So stoked. We want you to stick around for more. Get more content from us on Instagram at maven.community or join our community of women entrepreneurs on Geneva using the link in the description. We love you.
I also just want to say thank you guys for letting me be vulnerable in front of you in safe spaces. So, if you're thinking about joining, even if you're a hard ass like myself who likes to pretend she has no emotion, I think you might find some comfort in the here. I think you might find some comfort here.
Do you feel seen?
I feel seen, and I want to go behind a curtain now. I don't know why all of a sudden, once we started wrapping up, I'm not in it, but we will see you next time. We will see you next time.
Thank you all. Love you, partner.
Mm-hmm. Love you too. Okay, bye.